Hello and welcome everyone. This is typically a course I teach. It's for Coursera, for classes at USC or classes at Calarts or classes at Harvard. This all can turn into units you can use. And we've got several classes posted, 3 classes posted, Film Criticism 1 and 2, and Auteur Studies of D.W. Griffith. There's also a 12-unit course, Film Special Effects, that we did last summer. We're doing summer school this year. It's going to be on the genre, the Western. And we're doing a very approved of look at the films of Quentin Tarantino, but I'm kind of going to take the high road out and say that I don't know the expert on those clips on all those movies that he made perfectly, but I remember it's hard to forget the things you see in a Tarantino film. It's hard to forget the entire scene usually as it's happening. So you look at these different styles of filmmaking from the silent era where D.W. Griffith is trying to make this big wave when he's on the scene, and then you get Tarantino who sees the wave coming and contributes to it and makes an even bigger wave, and then it just keeps rippling out, and now we're at the end of that ripple of Pulp Fiction type movies, because now we're on the internet a lot more, and you just can't make movies like you did in the 90s home video that you can do on the internet. Look, I know there's a lot of an adult medium on the internet, but as far as like making R-rated movies, the idea is kind of wearing off, because people are like, they want to see a movie that's really good that doesn't have to rely on certain sleaze factor. And we know sleaze to be a good thing from the book The Sleaze Merchants, and we know John Waters up to those guys are great at what they do, and we love and respect and worship all of those directors who are of the exploitation field, whether they be reactionary or not. I love those satanic bastards. They're great. And I didn't mean that in a bad way, like the inglorious way. So we're going to have a lot of fun later next semester when that starts on December 27th. So this is a topical class. I just wanted to cover a few rules of the class. If you are getting it for credit, you are going to have to turn in a typed out or printed out or handwritten even final to exam. Good handwriting though. You'll be graded on handwriting, especially if you do it in handwritten, But if you can answer to the finals, and the final for Film Criticism Part 1, if you've seen all the videos, and trust me, Coursera keeps track of what videos you've seen, and it will know whether to process you the course units that we have had hundreds of viewers even over into this 4th quadrant, and it isn't there yet, of next semester of Masterclass being it's my 2nd year as a Masterclass professor, and it's been really by the seat of my pants that the whole thing started off as a booting a pirate, like we were going to try and get a Masterclass in, and they said we had one, and we watched all the details on it and contributed to all the master's class details, and then next thing you know, it was working. So the pirate was already there. They were inviting us from that episode to go right into these classes for Harvard and USC and Calarts. And Harvard, I've said it 100 times, man, I'm not sure if they have a film school yet, but at least now, if I did this for 11 years or so, we could, justify someone getting a film Harvard degree just by taking courses that I'm teaching. But we've got to mix it up. We've got to get more film teachers, more master classes even on the subject of cinema, because the subject of cinema isn't just covered by me or all the researchers I've read about. It's covered by a whole eclectic band of film studios, film schools central, man. Film school is the best for finding the professors that have been spending their life on archiving this material. And when you're a research artist and a archive artist, you're that rock star kind of critical studies guy that schools are looking for. I saw recently last year that they were showing that Rolling Stone's going to merge with NYU and do a journalism master's, and I thought these masters are getting really intense. The master's I got from Calarts wasn't a joke at all. It was like you had to have 2 other masters coordinating coming out at the same time, and then you had to have at least like a PhD pending. I'm going to tell you something scary about when I applied for college is in the PhD mode. I had to get 10 PhDs to get the one Calarts PhD. Counting that one, had to have 10. They were lowering it from 12, but and most of the PhD artists that did get a PhD from Calarts went with the 12 PhD. And like, I don't know, I had a couple of documents pending here and there. Most of the things are kept track of on LinkedIn. IMDb and Criterion have a good care of my bios, and the Wikipedia article is notorious because it gives away details but totally makes it seem like it's this like amateur writing of my life. It's like the amateur bio hour. Not biology, biography. And so here I am in the middle of this biography hour, and it's not even an hour. We're going to take like probably 25 more minutes of your time and just talk shop, because what I wanted to look at is how the film criticism one review is take a movie and review it any way you want and turn it in. That one needs to be turned into Coursera if you got the units for that class, so they can have it on file that you really passed their class and knowing you took the final, which is going to cost the money of the units, and really Coursera covers it down to an almost free level. And with all the classes you can get to watch, it's pretty much a free show. And the irony of that is I'm freelancing it anyway, and like I've distributed my funds back to YouTube all I can, but like I'm freelancing it. This is like me giving my extra talent in the terms of film criticism history to come on here to Masterclass and be this film critic guy. And that's okay, because I'm nowhere near like the gods of the critic new age, like Roger Ebert and Leonard Maltin, guys that are real class slice of life, real big classy guys, really famous, like more famous than most other artists will ever get to be. It's Leonard Maltin and Roger Ebert, and had a big staff, and they had lots of people working for them, and they had things working out coincidentally for them, and they were magic, and they could do things with their words, and they could make jokes out of situations that no one know that they were joking except you and him. And I've had situations with Roger Ebert and Leonard Maltin that got really hilarious really fast, because I think they knew I wanted to be like a critic, but they knew I'd be like an edge of the drop of the water at the bucket compared to how they'd really changed the critical scope of the world just in being reviewers. I'm not saying that I like that better than film theory, because film theory really has a heart for me. I really have a place for that. And I've written some revered books in the sense of film theory, but all of that really boils down to that there's a David Bordwell out there, and yes, he's real, and yes, he's got all this information too, only now he's got it in like a big art of cinema book, and you can read the whole thing, and he's got Kristen Thompson helping with him, Bordwell, Thompson, they always put out these big encyclopedias of film history, and that one with Thelma and Louise on the cover where they're going for it. Thelma and Louise is an interesting film because it was like partially a feminist film, and what really is essential in that movie is that they're both a femme fatale. They're both exiting men's reality. They both go off the cliff as a statement for feminism in general, which that is like Suicide Squad style. That's like really rearing your ugly head at male dominant culture and saying we're going off the edge instead, by our own hand instead of by some jerk's hand who probably would have caught up with them and messed those two chicks up because they were in the wrong part of the desert. And well, they got out of it and made a feminist statement too. I don't know, it's Ridley Scott. It's one of his most perplexing movies. Like, it's a piece of the puzzle, just like Blade Runner. It's like, is that paper mache I see over there? No, I'm not supposed to get into film criticism. There's just a few things reminded me of some movies, and I get very conversational about the effects that movies have had on me, and the effects of every day waking up thinking about movies, like every day saying, I love the smell of napalm in the morning. You have to say that like 3 times a day if you're a director. And if you're on a project, then you have to just constantly think, I love the smell of napalm in the morning. I love the smell of napalm in the morning. You just have to keep repeating it to yourself while you're directing. It's one way to get rid of the stragglers, which are the stragglers are you got really good and got really on top of the movie, and then the next day you woke up and you feel like crap, so you don't want the movie to veer into crap, so it doesn't, because you get this really boom-bastic cool ass scene again going, and then you're back in the movie, and then your dream life and your home life and everything else just kind of melts off of you. But if some of it stays on the screen, that's only because we're meditating into a camera what the perception of the viewer should be seeing, at least from some vantage point within a certain 180-degree radius from the screen, just similar to a theater's proscenium that you see out of a square like you do in this cinema projection room, that the cinema is a square. Like, why wasn't it oval in the beginning if Griffith wanted ellipsis on every scene? And suddenly we're seeing, the round oval thing covering the sides, and we're like, wow, this is entrancing. It's an old film, it's a silent film, and we're seeing it like on a round oval, which really makes it look old-timey. You would see those pictures of old-timey pictures on the shelf over there. I was looking at Wild Bill Hickok's. Wow, he's a really powerful gunman. I mean, like, his pictures pretty much sends right into me. And I want to talk a little bit about some different things I do for a living. Like, I'm also into philosophy. This is my favorite philosophy book, or one of the top 10. I could go down the list, like Plato's Republic, like Kant's Critique of Pure Reason. That's one of the greatest books ever. And there's other ones too, and this is Wittgenstein's Tractatus. And I think what's cool about it is it's about language, and it's about linguistics, but it's also about, like, atomic energy existing in the algorithm of sentences, or the logarithm of a single letter, which a logarithm of a letter is the same one for each one. Logarithms are always 0 is less than x is less than 1. And that's how you can set up a logarithm pattern easily. Even when you're coding for a computer, you can just be like, 0 is closed gate, 1 is open gate. Yeah, let's do this. 1 is positive, 0 is negative. And as far positive as you can go, you can't go all 100%, because then you'd be at, like, static electricity in the air. Just can't go all the way to 0, because then there'd be nothing, and the absence of everything is nothing. Therefore, nothing can fit into nothing, and nothing's not in nothingness. So we learn in philosophy, but that these words follow a sort of quantum physics of Kantian. Language is sometimes dissolved in the fact that they don't want to look at it like a Hegelian dialectic, the Tractatus, although it most certainly fits that breed of literature. And I would say that Wittgenstein wasn't far from Hegel when he was looking into the logic of language being thesis, antithesis, synthesis throughout the modern era of deconstructionism codes that Hegel had begun to center. And what if someone did deconstruct this? What would it show? So then Marx and Darwin and Freud are the young Hegelians, and they're all showing what deconstruction is like. This is what it is to have deconstruction tools and find out what they mean for, and find out what to use them for, and then just discard deconstruction, because there's a logic that can get you to a simpler fact, an atomic fact that is such a participle of the word, of the letter, even of the word and of the sentence, that the connotation in barely inflections, as the Mahabharata explains, in barely inflections, the conversation changes in ways that we didn't expect, or miscommunicated, or did expect, but came up with a double entendre at the same time, and why the word double entendre sounds so scary when you say it. These are the kind of things we talk about in Masterclass when it's just you and I and a few minutes to kill and setting up for the next semester's course. And here in the interim, and we still have a really good staff. We have really good outlook on everything. The classes have been working out great. Film criticism too. I remember the final was, what's the difference between pure cinema and cinema pure? And I'm really going to leave that with y'all, because that you need to remember that. What is cinema, pure cinema, and cinema pure? Pure cinema is the mise-en-scène going to the montage, back to the mise-en-scène. Cinema pure is like trying to make those objective criteria films that are abstract, those avant-garde films that you're trying to get everything out of the frame except for the light in the camera and the light in the projector are really what you're focusing down, further on, even if it just makes you stare at a blank screen. I swear we need to, my next movie is going to be stare at a blank screen. I already made that movie once, but I'm going to make it again, and it'll be just big Hollywood Oscar contender. It'll be called Staring at a Blank Screen. I swear I would be so good at that movie, except for, I get distracted and I'm not always staring at a blank screen. But then it's kind of a joke, but you see what I'm getting at is we're staring so hard that we're staring down the blank screen. Like, not even an image can grace us with its presence now that our staring match is so in touch with our, like, devoid gaze of the modern gaze. It's like we look at the picture and we're disaffected, but we think it's a beautiful picture. But from a time that we could never relate to, in an era we could hardly even imagine. And then you study the era and the time, and it gets simpler to you, closer to you, like an atomic fact on the scale. But then you kind of let other movies take over for you and what you want to see and what you want to do. And heck, I'll tell you, the last 100 films I watched were all silent films. I've been watching so many silent films because I get them on my computer. And, I've watched, I watched Duel by Steven Spielberg on this computer. It's a cool computer, but there are so many silent films that, like, I want to see them all because I know that there's going to be one. Every once in a while I get surprised by one that is so outrageously rare and unorthodox. And how would they do that back then? And how did they get away with that back then? And how are they doing this? And what am I watching? And this is the silent era. And this is the great silent era where I get to see movies that are made that way. That, well, it's got one thing going for it. Only the silent era could have pulled that off. Some of the shots they pulled off, some of the big screen venues they went down in, some of the directors in their guilds, and the actresses like Lillian Gish becoming this explosive movie star, and setting up the star assemblage of even like fan cults were emerging around 1915. Lillian Gish, and it was mostly kind of cautiously, I will warn you, for her role in The Birth of a Nation, that most of her fan club really started sprouting out of nowhere to notice her. And yeah, so we've got a little bit of time. So I got my PhD at Calarts. I had to have 10 other PhD programs going. I pretty much had to get them all before I could get the Calarts one. But if I flipped the switch just right, all PhDs would be considered at once. And then the ones I didn't have yet would be considered that I was getting them. And Calarts will take the redundant loophole route and get the other schools all charged in. And I think they've done that with all the schools I've had. I went to Austin, BYU, NYU, Columbia. I wasn't at the schools. I was taking courses remotely and turning in things remotely, like my dissertations, my thesis. Went to Harvard, went to Chapman, Berkeley, Stanford, UCLA. I have a PhD in film. And so it seems like now that I got to find my way back to the top, because I had to fight and battle this long, wretched series of things called Finals Week forever, and it was going on for 3 years. And so finally I got ahead of that. And then just when you get ahead of the game, it's not a bad thing, but it falls on your lap that you owe the school hundreds more artworks. And I was going to tell you, I come from this long line of making artwork. Like, I made Shadow of Death in 2008. I mean, 2006 I was making Oedipus Marshall with Javier Tellez, and like with 2006 is when I made Rut Schilstein and me and Matt Klickstein. Oh my gosh, all these people are like revolutionary in their field and revolutionary in the field of cinema, and they all deserve like huge thanks and huge strengths in my career, only from them and only from my Jason Sheely, my cousin, and all he's ever taught me, even about horror films. I owe to him, because he got me on the entrancers that Fangoria had the ultimate say on the horror film, and he was right. And now I'm working as a Fangoria writer, and it sharpens me up with whoever I work for as a writer, and then I have all these options like Rolling Stone, wants me to write for them, and they're all available, and they're all there for me on the Supercritic Fun Path. But that took a long time to get. Having that loophole knock all the other PhDs home was cool, because I got to use that in case that they didn't all go through, which they all went through anyway, but I did use the flip close method. Don't tell your friends about it. Also, it was during the time of the quarantine, and no one was taking classes, and no one was turning anything in, and we got hit by the cultural relief guys are saying turn everything in. So we turned everything in, and everything came back like square, that we had the longest poetry book of all time in our grasps. I still have it in my grasp. I can't believe how easy it is to access all the 19,000, 18,500 poems that are in that record-breaking book. And it's also wonderful and it's also great. But I'd like to mention that I'm in the Western Slope side of things. And the Western Slope side of things, that's in Colorado. We're not even in Hollywood anymore. We do projects here that are like Hollywood big and under the table and that are big Hollywood with Hollywood people, because Hollywood people work near Aspen and Aspen's near us, and we like to do as many deals as Aspen's doing. So that's one way we have Hollywood connections in Grand Junction. It's just because of that. And went to school and where they went and blah, blah, blah. But Hollywood connections or not, I'm the lowest on the totem pole, actually, on as regalist a champion as I am. I'm actually the lowest on the totem pole of the Western Slope organization for filmmaking, because you see there's Todd Brady, who's been in the business 20 more years than I have, and he's 10 years younger than me. He's one of those type of guys. I don't know how he's been in the business longer. He's still younger than me. Love the guy. He's an amazing filmmaker. He's always on time. He never misses a beat. He always practices and plans things out. He goes the real way and gets auditions and gets readings and gets headshots, and he goes all the way movie making from A to B to Z on how to make a movie the right way. And if I've learned anything from him, it's, I hope you're my friend after I make this movie, because it's good. But Todd Brady good is another kind of good that I'm just going to have to yearn for a while. And then there's Seth Schaefer. He's a huge filmmaker, and he is actually even younger than me, like Todd, but he's younger than me, and has been more successful than I am for longer than me. Like, I'm just now coming in my success with these, like, Masterclass type Barrio type things that I'm giving you. And this is going to be a hedge to all the things that are going to come handy for going to film school, either at USC, Calarts, or even at Harvard, which, like I said, I'd have to teach for 11 years. Are you guys will want me here in 11 years? Masterclass wants me here in 11 years. I'll still be telling the same old story about how I was homeless for 5 years, and everybody's like, homeless? That's a horrible thing to say. That almost makes you unaffected, like disaffected. Are you okay? And I'm like, well, yeah, it didn't make me go too insane to be checked later by psychology. Is fine, you know. And homelessness does change your perspective a bit. It's that Heidegger complex where you've seen some other reality, and you know it's accessible, but you don't really want to go through the trouble of getting back to it, if you know what I mean, because of the portal that opened, that necessarily or not should be opened, was opened, and going back to close it just ain't gonna do you no good, honey. So I just had kind of a funny attitude about things like that, but like it's helped me in graduate school, and it's helped me to learn how to argument, and it's helped me. Critique of Pure Reason was really the book that led me back into my PhD in philosophy, because then I knew I could win a couple of Super Bowls of philosophy, which I took advantage of and won a couple of Super Bowls of philosophy. One was in metaconsciousness, the other was in theory of relativity, and the other was quantum physics and mechanics. And I topped the journey on those souls so much that I could release even other books, even on Kierkegaard, which I always wanted to talk about his version of existentialism, which is where there's just no afterlife. There's no metaphysic to it, because there's no afterlife. There's no heaven. There's no hell. Dust to dust, ashes to ashes. There we go. And how he knows this, I don't know. But Kierkegaard's pretty sure he knows this of all people. So I'll just take his word for it. Also, there's so picking the schools, you know, like getting into the schools like UC Santa Barbara. You know, I had talked to the dean of that school years ago, and he said, well, if you graduate, we'll give you this. And the Library of Congress says, if you graduate, we'll back tax you to the archive work you did back with USC, and then you work for the Library of Congress the whole time, and then all your hours will be excavated forward. And I've been working for them on the line ever since, although I don't do enough work for them. I am doing this new silent montages show for the Library of Congress. And now got another cool job at Wizards of the Coast. But the Wizards of the Coast, I had to beat a boss battle in live action role playing. It was really crazy. But Wizards of the Coast aren't messing around. But I told them I'm not either. So if they can make all my gold coins from old video games into real money, then they will have fulfilled their duty to me as Wizards of the Coast. Which they're not going to do, because I won so big on Final Fantasy 15 that I pretty much own that game now as copyright. Like, that game is mine now. They just signed over the deed to the game and were like, fine, take it from us. No, I didn't. It wasn't that bad. I totaled that game just like in an oblivion hypnosis state. They had me hypnotized across across the game on Final Fantasy 15. And I'm just being nerdy and geeky to say that, like, there's that Spielberg movie, Ready Player One, where the guy's like the Silver Surfer altered movie. I kept waiting for him to blow up Dark Star at the end. Oh man, that was a cool movie. I thought that King Kong should just show up in all Spielberg movies. Like, there should be a conspiracy to King Kong to reflect on the director himself, Steven Spielberg, and what a King Kong he is when it comes to being on a set with him. He just jumps around and smashes things. He learned it from Stanley Kubrick. No, I'm just messing around. I don't know how they direct. I don't know if they've ever broken anything on a set. For all I know, David Cronenberg would probably cancel this whole movie if something got broken on the set for real. But anyway, let's get into the situation we're in. So, homelessness didn't matter much. Learned a lot about the road, whatever. Played guitar on the road pretty decently. Survived. Got into some misadventures. Don't want to get into it. Got back into film after losing my shirt on my first one. My first one sucked. Everything else has been okay. There's been a couple others that sucked. I just get rid of them. If it's an old crappy film I don't want anymore, I just get rid of it. I mean, it would have probably have money contingency somewhere but I looked that up, and most of these were pretty flopperoonies. And it's not just because they're flops that I don't keep them. I've kept some flops that I thought didn't deserve to be or whatever, However it is that a money figures back into a film. Even though the film itself is an act of printing money onto the screen, because all the money that it's using for you to watch this is money pumping out for me to say this through the camera back to you. And so it's pumping and out. It's like a heartbeat. It pumps in, pumps out. I mean, that's how the internet agenda is. And I'm sitting here going, well, I'm freelance, so you guys can take some time and calm down. And we don't have to go through subject after subject. I don't have to tell you about then after being homeless, being stuck at home, writing poems for like 10 years. But trust me, the Animal House, Sigma Nu, fraternity adventure did take place the way it was supposed to. Did have a lot of girls from Alpha Kappa Gamma. Did have a lot of things work out that weren't working out so much before. Pulled a few strings on my Berkeley PhD when I was there. And so, I'm not real sure that now I'm ready for Sigma Nu, which I'm totally sure I'm ready for Sigma Nu. That I wasn't before, I don't know. That I can pay the dues now better than going into debt over dues, right? Which some people go into debt over dues, and that kind of gets them shipmated elsewhere. But me, I waited till all the dues were in the can, and then I was like, are you still up for some Sigma Nu action? And I'm not saying that like guides and protects me from everything, although Sigma Nu guide and protect us. No, but like that's not all I'm saying. Like, there are friends you have for eternity that went through the same kind of school that you did, where it was like really boot campish, where you'd have to write these long papers about subjects that you didn't know anything about, and you have to keep researching everything as deep as it'll research. And some of these classes have offshoots of what they write papers about, either about movies that are hard to find and hard to track down. And I've got this collection that's like intimidating everybody. It's like if he pulls out Storm over Asia, his own Criterion movie, we're all gonna flip, And I only did that on Criterion. So I thought it was a rare film, not that it was Russian, and we're all scathing everything Russia. But that film does scathe everything Russia. Most Russian films scathe everything Russia. Most national films on a basis scathe everything from their own nationality. As we too in America have scathed most of our own nationality. And by scathing, I mean like in kind of a funny way, we taunt and tease that we're nowhere near as big and sturdy enough to really actually stop world's problems from happening. I guess that's what we leave the Army to, and the Army has their own press, and their own press is educated with their type of circulation because it's only for people in the military, not just Army, military, I gotta watch that. That these military camera shoots a lot of times will have cadavers in the shot, that they just don't want that for real in a real movie. Is because it goes to the original ethic that you don't hurt anyone on film. If you do, you can't use it because it could be a lawsuit waiting to happen after the fact for proof of hurt. And that was like a D.W. Griffith rule from back in the day. So, I'm going to leave you with that for now. I know I left you hanging. I didn't really talk about shadow of death and how I pulled out of the misery of not being that good of a filmmaker to suddenly this really high pressured, really good filmmaker that can get movies out. And then I did this rockumentary, which is now part of VH1's big rockumentary distribution on my page, and like VH1 has really come in handy. These last few months, VH1 has been adding its logo to my music videos, and so has, and MTV was already kind of sturdy right there for us, but like VH1's already coming through and getting some of these projects onto TV and VH1 special sites on the internet, and mine's already turned into like the site you can find like any company at mine, because I've worked for every company. It seems that like focus features are the only ones that are like hidden in there somewhere, that like I think Shadow of Death might have that on there, but we're looking through them and we're like, well, we it's like looking through your old tapes, only this time they've got the movie icons on them. Well, I still have this one of Chef and Barbie. Do you think they'll count that as a two hour conclusion to two badass businesses? I'll be going through the tapes. Here's Branding Weight again. Toss that one out. Here's me smoking weed in 2000. Oh, toss that one out. Oh, it's when weed's legal and I'm smoking weed. Keep all those. All right, I'm moving from the stack of VHS. It's like, what do you expect when you're going through your golden years? The ones that sucked suddenly come back and they're good now. We made all your films again that you disowned. And we made them scene for scene, not like you did, except we made it just a little worse. And just a little worse in language. How do you feel about us remaking your film and walking all over you and doing it? Like, does that mean they're mine now because you remade mine? Like, you remade what? Like, I already disowned those. How could you remake a disowned film? Like, unless you were really going behind my back, and that'd be like some underground shit, isn't it? Like, we're going to remake all the shit these films that he doesn't like anymore, and we're going to put them on his website, and then all his producers will be like, don't F with Aaron, because then you're effing with the producers. And I'll just leave it at that. We won't mess around with that. Because what's theirs is theirs, and what's mine is theirs, and everything can go that direction. I'm not supposed to talk about that a lot on here, so we'll just move on. I almost said edit that out, but I'm rolling a live camera, so like everything I say is used in this one individual stream of audio and video media of me lecturing in the interim of between the Masterclass, YouTube Masterclass, and we're teaching again in December on the 27th is the beginning of next semester. And between then, I'll just be telling you a little bit about myself as a director. I'm in the Directors Guild. Writer, I'm in the Writers Guild. I'm very high positioned in the Writers Guild, which is strange because kind of low in the Directors and Producers Guild, but still learning the ropes. And even though I've been in this freelance business for a while, this is where the big guns are starting to say we got to do it different ways, and we're going to do it different ways. And I'm like, hey, are you on board with me? Because I'm going to do it this way, and we can all get on board and have a good time too. So let's just make sure that we're all in it together and we're all helping each other have a good time too. Because, man, when Robert Rodriguez told me how to make Lazy Smoker, I thought I'd died and gone to Director Guild heaven. It was the most brilliant idea. And by the way, I was really stoned, and he was too. We just got stoned off this chronic. And bro, this is a total urban legend, but that like we totally made up this whole battle plan for how the exact movie of Lazy Smoker should go with script and soundtrack and everything, and it went exactly like that. I don't remember what 3 words he told me. He's like, you are Batman or something, and all my whole world changed. I was like, the room started turning into Sin City, black and white and everything, and we were all like ghosts, and I'm sitting over here looking like the ghost of Tom Joad or something. I'm like, Great Depression era guy, I'm like falling apart. I'm like, I figured out that the one thing that's cool about my freelance career is that like I'm like the tramp. Chaplain doesn't got nothing on me. I'm a walking ex-homeless dude. Like, but that I have like these riches now in postdoctoral studies proves that you can be studying in school when you're broke and homeless. Because if I wouldn't have stayed in school the whole time, I would have never gotten it all done, and then I wouldn't have my 10 PhDs to stare at and my 10 masters, and I wouldn't have my New York Critic Circle. And I run that social media, along with the Golden Key social media, Writers Guild social media, Pulitzer Press social media. They just had an interesting question on there, was Natalie Portman the winner of the Pulitzer Prize today? Well, novel online, because she got 1 million views right away. So I think that was a pretty much a given, and we'll look more into those as the time goes on, but like it looked like they got all the views, they had the book there. I mean, it's just, there's no question that these like big hitters can happen, but you got to be up to the challenge of finding someone even remotely as good as Natalie Portman to play a character in an essential role of a book deal you're trying to release to these publishers that want females to win Pulitzers, and you're like, this is a big pendant to be holding this social media, but I'm going to pass it on to everybody that looks twice my way and says, what do you think it would take to get one? And you're like, well, I'm not going to bribe you. It's going to take a good book or a good newspaper article or even a good web article. And a good web article goes a long way, and we've seen some good web articles out of working there for that social media. I also do a KMSA and Daily Sentinel local social medias, and the local ones are cool. Underwriter for a KMSA is a really cool job for me to have, and it's a really good one. I like to download music and put music on a playlist so they can use it on the radio or whatever they want to do. And then the Daily Sentinel, it's kind of a work in progress. I mean, I can write satellite articles, and I'm always writing about the Western Slope, which, by the way, the number one Western Slope guy I forgot to tell you all that I almost closed down without telling you, and that is Craven Lovelace. Now, Craven Lovelace is a big famous porn star somewhere all the time. Like, he's usually in St. Louis or Detroit. That he lives in Grand Junction is just because it's in between St. Louis and Detroit. Theoretically, the way he's driving past the New Jersey Turnpike, after he wonders if he should go in and see if anything's really going on down there, even though he made a movie in New Jersey about things going on in the New Jersey Turnpike, but they used a set away from the turnpike, so they never got under the turnpike to research it. And one time I asked him, Craven Lovelace, sorry I didn't use the two names at once, but I asked him if he saw what was under the Jersey Turnpike, and he was like, in his best Orson Welles, he was like, Jersey Turnpike? I know of no other than being John Malkovich of Jersey Turnpikes. If you're trying to get me to confess to Jersey Turnpike, well, it's no use. It's my movie after all. I don't disown my movies like some catty, young, pretentious foul-mouthed maggot, or whatever he called me at the time, that totally blessed me with his greatness, and I was totally awed in his nature, and I was totally like moving on to the next element I would need out of a film to sell it, and that was capitalism. And excuse me for drooling. I drool when I say capitalism, usually. And if you look at how like the logos of the soup cans were done by Andy Warhol in this kind of painterly fashion, and ever since I saw that when I was young, I thought, wouldn't that be cool to make like ads into art? Like make the ads like into the art, like make a bunch of commercials into a real movie and shit. That'd be cool, man. How come nobody's ever done that? They think it's all product placement. Well, trust me, these things called films are more expensive for us to make than we're making off of them, no matter how you look at them, whether we're on a strike or not. The movie with the camera, with all the business that goes on, with all the weed you have to buy for a movie. Yeah, your movies are looking at a higher expense than it's going to receive in the long run of you getting money back. But don't let that scare you. World hunger is still afoot, and we're even spending money on movies, right? So now we're all guilty of being anti-ethical because we're supposed to spend our money on people starving, and that's what we're told to do. And I'm only doing this tramp routine as like when I was starving in the wilderness, there were some spiritual reasons for that, but to admit that to anyone would be half-loon crazy. So instead, I'm just taking the familiar route with those head writer's block. I was a long way away from a computer. Now I'm back to writing things. I write music too. Let's get it on. Let's do what we're going to do. Come on and flash dance. No, I don't know. But anyways, that was about it for today. I covered that there's 3 other guys in filmmaking that are from the Western Slope. Seth Schaefer with all his commercials. Arn McConnell, Craven Lovelace with all of his cult films from Trauma or every other company I worked at. There's always another film by him that he did first. And it's like my same movie that I'm making, only it's the one he did first, just to be the one to do the guy that did first. But he's in first place and he's about 1,000,000,000 points ahead of everybody, so I'd say that's cool. And then, of course, there's the great Todd Braley, and I don't think Todd Braley doesn't set out to get a shot he doesn't get. I mean, when he gets a shot, that's the shot he set out to get, and you can say that more for him so than trying to ornament a chaotic version of like an advertisement into a tapestry of these are the non-AI but still robot rules to finding what is and isn't allowed on, say, like YouTube Masterclass, YouTube creators. They allow a lot, but if you break the rules, cuss too much, attract too much attention in a negative way, you say something bad about somebody. You know, you could even say a bad review, and I give no bad reviews. I mean, Plan 9 from Outer Space is an amazing movie, and if that's the worst, I'm in. I love cinema because Plan 9 from Outer Space is an amazing movie. And I think my Western Slope fellow filmmakers would know all this redundantly, would repeat all this to you redundantly, and then they'd get you into something interesting like, hey, would you like a career learning more about film? And that's about the same response I get is like, yes and no. Yes, because you guys are golden gods of the filmmaking Western Slope, but no, because if I was up there, I'd have to be lower than Aaron, and that's pretty low. No, he wouldn't say that. Oh, come on now. I'm looking for someone to be lower than me. Be my lower. Be my lower, Grand Junction. There's someone out there that wants to be a filmmaker. I know you're out there. And this is a small town, but we got some good filmmakers, so hang on to your pie because we're not done yet. Every time the studio goes on quarantine, I get like films out to the film festivals in Europe and then win them because nobody's running against me. They're just taking these films. I could have turned in Daphne and Cheesy in the second grade, and they would have played this little dog barking at a little girl that's laughing, and then we'd all get freaked out because we're like, what if this little girl's soul just got captured into the film? Or what if all the money she made at that time in her life, which was a lot because she was just born, so she had people paying onto her account. I don't know, was that enough to cover the footage that we made of that really expensive camera that got more expensive as we had to fix it? And these are other questions that are first world troubles that each filmmaker sometimes we make up those questions because we already know the answer is A, not going to happen, B, going to happen. That's what you figure out as a director. Is this going to happen? Well, we can make that happen, so that's going to happen. But we got to choose not to make that happen, and that's not going to happen anyway, so that's not going to happen in the movie. But what I shoot could be what happens in the movie. Usually is, almost always is, in the movie. And then you get that whole Dogma 95 manifesto we got going on with Rut and like Lazy Smoker, where it's like natural dialogue, natural sound, natural settings, and natural actors. And that just means that everybody's right there. Let's make a movie right there. Use whatever actor you want. Anybody can, it's a free for all. Any set can be used, any sound that's recorded off the microphone. So if you have a score, you have to record it onto the camera and then loop it. You can loop and use editing effects. And natural actors, which is like having your own personal modern actor from like the Boleshevsky, Stanislavski school, someone that's already a social construct of himself, someone that's thinking about himself and thinking hard about quizzical things to get him out of trouble with the otherwise existential cesspool that's going to pull them under in my films. And these existential cesspools range from being street killers to being stuck in a computer. There are a few uncomfortable, claustrophobic places I have to take you left. Dark Lord's really claustrophobic. Look, I'm starting to feel claustrophobic, and it's because my room feels like it's moving in on me, and I know you all saw that through the camera, like the special effects they're doing on me on Calarts and stuff, where it just moves forward and everything, my hands go through it like a poltergeist. But let's do something else. Let's talk more when we catch up next. We talked 45 minutes. You should be proud of yourself. Now you know a little more about me, and we're all cool. So far, so good. I haven't even told you about the crazy Pulitzer Prize stuff. Yeah, I did. It's boring. My books, a couple of my books were winners, and that was cool over the years. I really made a good deal as a committee member too, and I think that's cool that they let me give one to Stephen King and Salman Rushdie and all that shiznit back in the day, and that I'm still searching through like piles and piles and piles of stories. That's all. Most of it's on the internet that I'm just flying through, and I'm getting there. But then I watch all these silent films, and that really puts me out of touch with reality, which is what I think they want you at Pulitzer anyways, to be out of touch with reality. Like, you're so in touch with reality that you're out of touch with it. Postmodern goes both ways. We're cool. We're cool. All right, class, we'll see you in the next interim segment where I'll be talking more about boasting and villainingly vaunting my ego in every way by choosing the job, film criticism, because I'm right about movies. I'm just messing with you. I'm usually right, but not always about other things too. But we'll figure that out in like maybe a religious episode when we talk about Scientology. I don't know. I had to sneak that in there to get the sponsors in. You know how it is. All right, we'll talk later. Bye. YouTube Masterclass. Here we go.